So there's still the fallout from Monday Night Football and that gag job by the Eagles against the Falcons at home, in which they threw the ball on third down, which stopped the clock because Saquon Barkley dropped it. Then they elected to kick a field goal when they were up 3 in that spot, as opposed to trying to go for the first down on fourth down and hold on to the ball and ice the game. So they went up by 6, and then their defense melted down, and Kirk Cousins diced them up down the field, and they won that game. And then Drake London, pretended to, shoot a rifle up into the crowd or into the sky, and his coach came out after.
It was a water gun.
Yeah, well, he came out and said, it might have been like a T-shirt gun. It's like, okay, well.
Or that, yeah.
Because that's what people are doing when they're making those gestures. But Nick Sirianni, the head coach of the Eagles, he's defending himself. He's defending himself against the decision to kick the field goal in that spot late. Let's take a listen.
I've put myself in that situation prior to the call, so I felt like in the moment, my conviction in the moment was I knew exactly what I want. Again, is the outcome always what you want? No, but your conviction in the call, I was completely convicted that kicking the field goal there was the right decision based off all my studies. Now, I come back and I reevaluate it, right? And I'm even more convicted, to be quite honest with you.
Good. Like this idea that loss and him going for a field goal there is the reason that they fell apart in that game. If you were to ask a defensive coordinator, would you rather, if you were going to have to play and win a game on that side of the ball, would you rather have a 3-point lead or a 6-point lead with a minute and change left? Wouldn't they all say a 6-point lead because you'd force them to try and score a touchdown and not settle for a long field goal if they get stops? This feels easy to me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. And here's the other thing that I don't really understand how people on the outside of some of these organizations don't get it. They have analytics departments that build up, what they believe to be the most accurate way of going about making these decisions when it comes down to what's going to give them the greatest chance to win. And Nick Sirianni had talked about how before the season, they had talked about this with their analytics department. So to make sure they have all this stuff ready for these moments. And two things. This got a lot of momentum because of the Manning cast with both Peyton and Matt Ryan, which was, again, a little odd because Matt Ryan, in a very similar circumstance in the Super Bowl on a third down, was a part of the team that threw the football. And again, play was there. They just didn't execute. Like, same exact thing. The Falcons, New England Patriots Super Bowl, that play was there for them on third down, but they didn't execute. And so very similar to this, Saquon Barkley makes the catch. We're not even having this conversation. So we could go back to the analytics all we want or what, Peyton Manning and Matt Ryan were calling for. And there's a lot of people who are in that camp. But to your point, there's an analytics department behind this, but also that's what Nick Sirianni wanted to do. And he wanted to put his team up 6 and put this on his defense. And the reality is we're letting the defense off the hook nowadays with blaming it on the decision of the head coach going for a field goal in that instance or throwing a third down pass that should have been caught and the game should have been over then. Like we're completely letting players off the hook for lack of execution on both sides of the ball in this case. Obviously, Saquon Barkley, who had a good game, but on offense in that moment didn't. And then on defense, being like Swiss cheese the way Kirk Cousins went through that, man. I mean, it was a bing, 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 bing. I mean, it was so efficient. They had time at the end to try to make a play back the other way. Like that's not an offensive issue for the Eagles. That's a defensive problem. You've got a defense that's got a new defensive coordinator, and it appears is still kind of settling into whatever this defense is going to be, but in particular in 2 minute. So I would say if there's anything that the Eagles should be concerned by, it is more focusing on whatever the hell went wrong on that 2 minute drive versus Cousins that just absolutely diced them up.
It was so fast that even Peyton Manning on the Manning cast was like, all right, well, I mean, now slow
Slow down. Yeah.
Hold on.
And that was where Eli pushed back a little bit, which I think that's the other thing is most quarterbacks would, because when you have someone like Peyton Manning who's talking from that perspective, you're like, okay, dude, we get it. Like, you're Peyton. You feel like you're going to score at any moment when you want to. For the rest of us, we're thinking more, oh, we got to get in the end zone. We don't care if there's 30 seconds left for the other team. We're not looking at Tom Brady on the other sideline, right? So it's entirely, or Patrick Mahomes for that matter. It's an entirely different perspective. So I understood what Peyton was saying, but I was definitely more with Eli on that one. You just got to make sure you score.
And here's where I find this interesting with Nick Sirianni, and it just goes to show you that all the stuff in the offseason was real. So let's say he goes for the first down there. Like on fourth down, he goes for it. They don't settle for the field goal, and they get stopped. He's getting buried for not taking the field goal. Like, he would get crushed, because why would you put your team in that spot? You could have gone out by 6. You would have forced Atlanta to have to go the length of the field, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, either way, he was going to get criticized. And the reason he's getting criticized is because of all the stuff that was out there in the offseason about him being on the hot seat. And so we're at the point now to where Saquon Barkley dropped a catchable ball and was wide open. The defense got gashed in a big-time moment, and Atlanta went the length of the field and operated at a clip that they weren't able to operate the entire game. And the guy who's getting all the blame for that is Nick Sirianni. Not Saquon, not Vic Fangio. Like, that just tells me that the clock is ticking. And people are expecting either perfection or better results in this year for Nick Sirianni, or else he's going to be out. And it was all the stuff we heard in the offseason, which is why, and I remember thinking at the time, look at what the guy's done since he's been in Philly. He's been one of the best coaches in the NFL. They went to a Super Bowl. He's been to the playoffs every year. He's, 17, 18 games over 500, whatever it is. And yet we're talking about him potentially losing his job. And the fact that that's the discussion afterwards, and he's got to defend kicking a field goal when he would have had to defend going for it on fourth down, either way, he was going to be screwed and be criticized for it. And that just tells me it was all the smoke we heard in the offseason all playing out already 2 games into the year.